Today is the 25th of August. It is 12:18. I want to make some predictions based on some things that I see that's going on. I don't think that this virus is a huge deal in a sense that it's not like smallpox. It's not a big killer of people. It's not like something out of the sci-fi movies. Diseases typically kill the weak. You know, and you can put a lot of things into the weak. But that's how nature goes with any organism. Disease kills, for lack of a better term, and it's a Darwinian term, the unfit. I'm not saying that human beings are unfit, but the way we live, particularly in this country, we have a lot of chronically ill people. Some people, it's not fault of their own, and some people it's lifestyle choices. But you know, the truth is, you have a disease that really affects the mortality rate is people that are chronically ill, or and if you are elderly and you are on medication and all kinds of crazy stuff, and you got a bad heart and a bad lungs and blah blah blah. You know, these are the people that are at risk. The people that are in nursing homes and the elderly, and even, you know, there have been some children that died, but as a whole, you know, people have forgot that in Western society, child mortality rate was high up until about maybe 100 years ago, maybe even less than that. Child mortality rate was high because of childhood diseases. So many diseases that we vaccinate against now used to kill children. I mean, that's why so many women had 10, 15 kids. If you go to an old graveyard, and look at the tombstones and look at all the children and look at the ages of them. High mortality rate for children. That was always one of the things that kept the human population at a certain level. Every living organism on the planet has a particular time where it's most vulnerable, and it's usually when they're young. The highest rates of loss with most organisms is in their youth. It doesn't matter whether it's fish, it doesn't matter if it's reptiles, it doesn't matter if it's birds, and human beings were no different. We may have gotten rid of all the things that prey on us, we may have gotten rid of all the predators and stuff, but we never were able really to fully conquer disease. So this COVID thing, to me, and I'm speaking as somebody who got it, who had it. And for me, it was not a big deal. It really wasn't a big deal. If I had my choice between that and the flu, I would take COVID. But truth is, if I get it again, I don't know how I'm going to react to it a second time. But I don't want to give up living my life for fear of getting a disease. That's how most of Americans, so many people have now, they're so fearful that they wear these stupid things. So, but this is what I want to say about the long-term implications of COVID. There's a couple things going on in our society now, partially because of this, and the other thing is political. There is a Marxist movement in this country that hasn't been seen since I've been alive. A push towards, communism isn't talked about anymore. Young people don't know what it is. I was around at the tail end of when the Soviet Union was still around, and it was considered a threat. And I grew up around people that had an understanding of what communism did, because they came up in a time where the Russians in World War II went for a land grab, if you aren't familiar with this. And it was General Patton who said the Russians, these guys are going to be a problem. We need to take care of this. That's what he got fired for. So what we have now is a communist movement in this country. And what communists do is they They feed on the fears of people during difficult times. So there was a communist movement during the Great Depression. Okay? Because when people were at their lowest and desperate, they believed all the bullshit anybody is willing to throw at them, the promises that communism brings. All the communism promises is equal poverty. That nobody has a right to have more money than you. Let's make everybody equal. Case in point, when China was really communist and everybody wore gray pajamas and rode bicycles. That's how they all looked. If you don't understand what that was, I suggest you go look when Mao Zedong was still alive. Look at the videos when he was still alive and how the Chinese people looked. So I'm going to give you some predictions. You have a Marxist movement that is disguised as a social justice thing, and it has many factors. Antifa's one branch of it, and the Bureau of Land Management is another, the BLM. Go look at their manifesto, their mission statement, and you don't tell me there aren't communist elements in there. I'm telling you. It's all masquerading as a communist movement. So, what we are going to see, and here's my predictions, what we are going to see in the future. If Trump gets reelected, all that's going to happen is it's going to push the inevitable a little further down the line. Because it's only a matter of time before, look, the communists have been educating your children for the past 40 years. Okay? It's just a matter of time before they actually get power. So, until that happens, let's say Biden wins the election, and all of a sudden they are going to promise everything's going to be peaceful. No, the communists are still going to riot. They're still going to loot. And I've already starting to see a pattern. Is this what's going to happen? Anytime the police shoot somebody that they deem should not have been shot. Okay? Anytime the police shoot somebody that a group deems should not have been shot, there are going to be planned, organized riots and looting. This is Bolshevik tactics. This is brown shirt tactics. This is what's going to happen. And this is going to be the fallout from this. Any city that puts up with this, okay, they're going to lose their businesses. You're already going to lose a ton of businesses because of COVID. You're going to have, I can't explain this enough. All these companies that rent out expensive suites in buildings and high-rises in every one of our cities has finally figured out that we don't need to keep all these people rent this place out. We can make everybody work remotely. So they're going to have software, and they're going to develop remote thing to keep people in front of their computer in their home for a specific amount of time a day, etc., etc. It's going to be cheaper for them. They're going to save more money, and they want to keep their stock valuable. So that's what they're going to do. Then they're going to get rid of the real estate they got that they rent out, leaving vacancies in all our cities, meaning people aren't going to be going to and from work in these big cities anymore. Reduced revenue for whatever restaurants are left. Now, you're also going to have people that are going to leave. You're going to have people that aren't going to feel safe in the cities they live in because you're going to defund the police, and every time something happens, the civil unrest is going to make life there unbearable. You're going to have a migration out of cities into the suburbs where people are less likely to put up with bullshit. Okay? So you're going to see, and it's going to have repercussions on the livelihoods in urban centers and how business. And what you're going to do is the people that can't move out of there, they're stuck there. So you're going to have just two classes of people. You're going to have ones that are filthy rich, that can afford private security, and those ones that are dirt poor and can't go anywhere. And those places are going to be breeding grounds for all the foolishness. It's just that simple. You're going to have a lot of it. So I'm making this prediction. As this goes on, as this foolishness goes on, the civil unrest is going to be unbearable. And you're going to have people moving to states. You're going to have people moving to conservative states where the laws are different, and law enforcement doesn't put up bullshit. But then you got see, and then you're going to have, this is what you're going to have the trouble. You're going to have these idiots from California moving to Texas, and they're going to try to change the culture in Texas. And it's possible that they could do that, but in the end, you're going to end up with bloodshed, because you have two ideologies coming in here. You have the the bleeding heart liberals with the extra conservatives. Don't touch me, leave me alone. I've got guns. I will shoot you. You're having these two ideologies come together, and there's no mutual respect for the two groups anymore. I mean, I lost it. I don't have it. When people devalue my friendship to them based on how I vote, why do I want to be friends with you anymore? You were never a friend. You were never a true friend anyway. I would never do that to another person. So what does that say about you? What does that say about you and how in your political affiliation? See, I wouldn't do that to you no matter how you voted. But if you're going to treat me like dirt because of how I voted, why do I want to have anything to do with you? You can't have these ideologies live together. So you're going to have a polarization in this country that's not going to be able to be fixed. You're just not going to be able to fix it. I don't know how you can. You're going to, and the social unrest that's going to come from this, and I'm going to tell you right now, it ain't going to matter who's voted and who's in power, because what's going to happen when liberals get in power and they start implementing all this change, they can only do so much. Because, believe it or not, they need conservatives to vote for them. And they aren't going to have conservatives vote for them if they get too crazy. So they can promise all they want, and they can make all these promises, and they'll implement them. Their liberal constituents are going to go batshit crazy when they don't go far enough down the line. And if you really want to thank anybody for starting this nonsense, it is President Obama. He's the one that started this nonsense. He's the beginning of all this stupid stuff. If you don't believe me, look at the policies that he instituted and how he started this. Because he started it. So, get ready, because things aren't going to change. The rioting is still going to go on. The looting is still going to go on. They've been running around in the streets of Portland like crazy people for like 70 days every night. What company in its right mind wants to put up with that nonsense? And not just that, insurance companies are not going to want to keep paying for busted windows. Insurance companies, you can stay there if you want, but what's going to happen is all these companies, particularly smaller businesses, are going to say, I'm out of here because I can't afford the insurance. I can't afford it. I have to leave. And they're going to pack up and they're going to go someplace else that's a lot more friendly. And any state that is offering incentives for people to come and start businesses like Texas, they're all going to go there. They are going to go there, and those places are going to thrive. And with any luck, the people that have moved in there, they're going to value their freedom, they're going to value their lives, and they're not going to put up with the nonsense that these other people bring from these liberal places. Because these places are not going to be habitable real soon. So that's my prediction. You're going to see an exodus of people out of Chicago. You're going to see an exodus out of people out of New York City. You're going to see an exodus out of the state of California, period. California keeps getting an influx of more and more homeless people. And more people that can afford to leave are going to leave. And all you're going to be left is what is the mess. Imagine you have a strainer. And you're trying to strain something out of some water. And imagine everybody that can afford to actually leave is the very fine particles that fit through the strainer, the mesh in the strainer, right? So you bring the water up and you shake it, and all the fine stuff, the fine silt and everything, that's the stuff that leaves. All you're left with is all the big, nasty pieces of junk that won't fit through the sieve. That is what is going to happen. Use that analogy. Everybody that can leave is going to leave. Everything that can't is not and is left behind. That means the tax revenue is gone. That means they have to cut back on social programs, and they're going to have to cut down on government services. They're going to cut down on police, fire. The places are going to be uninhabitable shitholes. If you want to see what true shitholes are like, I suggest 2 places that I'm aware of. Gary, Indiana. Good God. Go to Gary, Indiana. If you live in northern Illinois or anywhere near, go, just drive through Gary, Indiana, and you will, if you've never seen, if you want to see what Detroit is like, go to Gary. Gary was a thriving, beautiful community 40 years ago because of the steel mills. They're gone now. So that's my predictions. COVID's not going away. Learn how to live with it. Learn how to live with it like we learn how to live with the flu and a common cold. I'm sorry, folks. It ain't going away. Even if they develop a vaccine that's got maybe a 50% effective rate, that's no different than the flu. We still have the flu, and we still have vaccines for the flu every single year. That doesn't mean the flu's going away. The flu has never gone away. So it's just something that you need to consider. And all this shutdown and destruction of lives and businesses and people's jobs, and that is the true fatality here. Because sometimes there's no coming back from that stuff. And it wasn't Trump's fault. If you want to point fingers to China for their disgusting culture and their disgusting, just the way they deal with things and what they like to eat. Blame them. And never forget that and there's going to be worse ones. That's another prediction. There are going to be worse viruses and diseases that are going to be coming out of that part of the world, whether it's China, Southeast Asia, or India, because you have crammed so many people into so small of conditions with not proper hygiene and cultures that don't value hygiene, amongst some other things, and it is the perfect recipe for disease. It's the perfect recipe. I will explain that some other time if you can't understand that. So we're going to have more crap that's going to come out of those places. So till next time, just remember, COVID is not going away, and neither is the civil unrest, regardless of what political party you may vote for.